In the 13th and 14th centuries, the Mongol Empire under the leadership of Genghis Khan stretched from the shores of China across the majestic Himalayas to the heart of the Middle East, from Persia to the Black Sea, then swept through the steppes of southern Russia, Ukraine, and reached the gates of Vienna in Europe, an empire spanning 11 to 12 million square miles, larger than the combined land masses of Africa or the Americas. All of this was forged not with warships or cannons, but with the thunder of hooves, the twang of bows, and a policy of terror that left enemies trembling. This is the story of a man who was both a demon in the eyes of the vanquished and an immortal hero in the hearts of the Mongol people. How did a boy born into poverty, enduring captivity, rise to become history's greatest conqueror, uniting the Mongol tribes? If you're a history enthusiast, hit like, share, and subscribe to join us on this thrilling journey through the past. And please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Around the year 1162, or perhaps 1155 or 1167, as historians still debate, near the icy shores of Lake Baikal, in the vast Mongolian steppe, a boy named Temujin was born into abject poverty. Legend has it that he emerged clutching a clot of blood in his tiny fist, a portent of destiny tied to the mythic origins of a gray wolf, a symbol of raw power and wildness in Mongol culture. But destiny offered no gentle hand. His father, Yesugei, a minor chieftain of the Borjigin clan, was poisoned by the Tatars at a wedding feast when Temujin was just 9. Cast out by their tribe, his mother Hoelun and her brood of children were left to fend for themselves in a merciless wilderness. They survived by digging roots from the frozen earth, fishing through thin ice, and scavenging whatever scraps the steppe provided. Meanwhile, to the east, China's Song dynasty flaunted its wealth in silk and gold, while in the west, European kingdoms raised towering castles. But Temujin, a scrawny boy with eyes ablaze, had only the endless sky and a simmering hatred as companions. His early life was a crucible of hardship. As a teenager, Temujin fell into the hands of the Taichiut, a rival tribe once allied with his father. They bound him with a heavy wooden yoke, parading him as a humiliated captive across their camp. Yet Temujin refused to break. One moonless night, as shadows cloaked the steppe, he swung the yoke like a club, felling a guard, and bolted into the forest. A lone soldier, struck by the fire in his eyes, secretly aided his escape, setting him free. From the ashes of misery and bondage, Temujin began a journey that would transform him into Genghis Khan, the unifier of the Mongol tribes, and a name etched in history with blood and fire. Freed from the Taichiut, Temujin didn't just reclaim his liberty, he began forging the alliances that would shape his destiny. He crossed paths with Bo-Orchu, a young warrior from another clan, after thieves stole his horses. Bo-Orchu not only helped recover the herd, but abandoned his own family to join Temujin, refusing any reward, a testament to the unshakable loyalty Temujin inspired. Soon after, he sought out Togril, the powerful leader of the Karait tribe and a former friend of his father. Recognizing the spark in the young man, Togril offered his backing. 20,000 warriors and the protection Temujin needed to rally his scattered followers. Yet his greatest early test came from the Merkit tribe. Fueled by an old grudge against Yesugei, they raided Temujin's camp and abducted his young bride, Borte. This wasn't just a personal affront. It was a strike at his honor. Temujin didn't hesitate. With Togril's forces and the aid of Jamuka, a childhood blood brother, he mustered a small army and pursued the Merkit across the steppe. The clash was brief, but brutal. Temujin razed their camp, rescued Borte, though she returned pregnant, sparking debate over the paternity of their eldest son, Jochi, and cemented his reputation as a leader who would fight to the death for what was his. At 14, Temujin had already shown his ruthless streak. He killed his half-brother Bektar with an arrow from a recurved Mongol bow. Some tales say Bektar stole a fish Temujin had caught, devouring it alone while the family starved. Others claim Bektar, as the eldest, began lording over the siblings, enraging Temujin and his full brother Kasar. Whatever the truth, Temujin stalked Bektar, waited until he was alone, and struck. When Hoelun learned of it, she offered only a mild rebuke, a sign of how deeply cruelty was woven into their world. This act revealed a boy unafraid to eliminate any obstacle, even kin. In 1206, at age 44, Temujin became Genghis Khan, universal ruler, crowned at a grand assembly by the Onon River after uniting the fractious Mongol tribes. He wasn't just a warlord, he forged a disciplined state where loyalty and obedience reigned supreme. From this moment, he unleashed campaigns that shook the foundations of Eurasia. His first major vengeance targeted the Tatars, who had murdered his father. In 1202, he crushed them, slaughtering thousands in battle and rounding up survivors, men, women, children, for a collective punishment. Standing by a wagon, he marked a line 3 feet high on its wheel and ordered, "Anyone taller than this, kill them all." Only infants and toddlers survived as blood soaked the steppe, a chilling warning to any who dared defy him. In 1211, he turned his gaze to the Jin dynasty in northern China. Leading 100,000 horsemen across the Gobi Desert, he besieged Beijing for 3 grueling years. Starvation drove the city's people to cannibalism. When it fell in 1215, Genghis Khan ordered tens of thousands executed, their skulls piled into pyramids rising 50 feet high outside the walls, a grotesque monument that travelers recounted with dread. By 1219, he faced the Khwarezm Empire in Central Asia. Initially offering peace, he sent envoys to negotiate, only for the Khwarezmians to behead them and kill a second delegation. Fury unleashed, Genghis Khan dispatched 200,000 troops, leveling everything in their path. Cities like Samarkand and Bukhara were reduced to rubble, castles, farms, homes, all erased. He even diverted a river to obliterate every trace of Khwarezm, leaving only a handful of remote mosques amid the ruins. Hundreds of thousands perished, and an entire civilization vanished. Then came the Shashia, a steppe people near Khwarezm's borders. Once subjugated, they refused to send troops as ordered. Genghis Khan's response was merciless. An army wiped them out, leaving no survivors. Their language faded into oblivion, preserved only in a few carved stones unearthed centuries later, a faint echo of a lost culture. Yet Genghis Khan was no mere butcher. He was a strategic mastermind, transforming scattered nomads into a disciplined war machine that moved like the wind on horseback. He exploited the Jin's divisions, Khwarezm's arrogance, and the West's weaknesses, stretching his empire from icy Siberia to sweltering India, from Vietnam to Hungary. He adopted the administrative systems of conquered nations, placing Mongols in top roles while local officials handled daily affairs. He banned torture within his ranks, revived trade along the Silk Road, and established the world's first international postal system. Swift horses carrying messages from China to Europe, ushering in the Pax Mongolica, a rare era of relative peace. His family doubled as tools of conquest. His daughters married off like black widow spiders, wed rival chieftains, forcing them to discard other wives to ensure his bloodline inherited power. These husbands were then sent to the front lines, where death was near certain, leaving his daughters to rule as regents. Each death expanded his dominion. Even old allies weren't spared. Jamukha, once his rescuer in the Birte affair, became a rival in the struggle for supremacy. In 1206, After a fierce battle, Jamukha was captured. Genghis Khan offered mercy, but Jamukha demanded a warrior's death. His bones were broken without spilling blood, a brutal yet honorable end under Mongol custom. Genghis Khan died in 1227, not during the Shashia campaign as some tales suggest, but while warring against the Western Xia in China. Wounded, perhaps from a fall or a battle injury, he succumbed at 65. His body was carried back to Mongolia and buried in a secret grave. Legends speak of vast treasures interred with him, but historians argue it was a simple Mongol burial to deter grave robbers. All who knew the site were slain, shrouding his resting place in mystery. After his death, the empire split into 4 realms: the Yuan dynasty in China, 1271 to 1368, Chagatai in Central Asia, 1227 to 1363, the Golden Horde in Russia, 1227 to 1502, and the Ilkhanid in Persia, 1256-1353. His grandson Hulagu pressed the conquests forward, sacking Baghdad in 1258, a catastrophe that claimed countless lives and scarred Islamic history. The Mongols believed that one day the Khan of Khans will rise again to lead them to glory. His legacy endures, a colossal empire, a revered nomadic culture, and a name that struck terror worldwide. He's blamed for millions of deaths, perhaps 5 to 10% of the global population then, but also bridged east and west like no other. To understand Genghis Khan, one must step into his world, a vast, unforgiving steppe where survival demanded cunning and strength. He saw the tribes around him not as mere neighbors, but as fragments of a greater whole, waiting to be forged into an unstoppable force. Where others saw chaos, he envisioned order. Where they saw rivalries, he saw opportunities. From his perch atop a horse, the horizon wasn't a limit, it was a challenge. He knew the Tatars' betrayal of his father could only be answered with annihilation, not just for revenge, but to teach a lesson that echoed across the plains. Defiance meant death. When he gazed upon the Jin dynasty's golden cities, he didn't see impenetrable walls. He saw a fractured realm ripe for conquest. He understood that terror wasn't just violence. It was a tool to break wills before swords were drawn. The skull pyramids outside Beijing weren't mere trophies. They were messages carved in bone, warning the world of his resolve. In the Khwarazm debacle, he perceived their diplomatic insult as a fatal misstep, a chance to demonstrate that even empires could be reduced to dust. He watched as his daughters wove their webs, knowing each marriage tightened his grip on distant lands, each widowhood a step toward dominion. Educationally, Genghis Khan's story offers a window into medieval geopolitics. His empire thrived not just on brute force, but on adaptability, borrowing Persian bureaucracy, Chinese engineering, and Islamic trade networks. For students of history, his campaigns reveal how a nomadic society could topple sedentary giants, a lesson in mobility and strategy that resonates even today. Consider this. His postal system, the Yam, predates modern logistics by centuries, a marvel of organization that kept a sprawling empire connected. His ban on torture within his ranks, uncommon for the era, shows a pragmatic mind, valuing loyalty over fear among his own. Yet his brutality reminds us of the cost. Millions died, cultures vanished, and entire regions were reshaped by his hand. He stood at the crossroads of East and West, a figure who saw beyond the steppe to a world he could claim. His vision wasn't just conquest, it was transformation. The Pax Mongolica, born from his iron rule, linked merchants from Venice to Hangzhou, proving that even a destroyer could build. For Americans, his tale mirrors the frontier spirit, rising from nothing, bending the world to his will, but with a darker edge, a reminder that greatness often walks hand in hand with ruthlessness. Centuries after Genghis Khan's hooves thundered across the steppe, his shadow lingers in the modern world, nowhere more starkly than in the war-torn fields of Ukraine. He would have recognized the landscape, those same wind-swept plains his armies once crossed, now scarred by tank tracks and missile strikes. In 2022, Russia's invasion of Ukraine reignited a conflict with echoes of Mongol ambition, a powerful neighbor seeking to dominate a defiant foe. Genghis Khan understood that war was not just about land, but about breaking the spirit of resistance. When he razed Khwarezm for its insolence, he sent a message. When Russia annexed Crimea and pushed into Donbass, it aimed to do the same, assert control through fear and force. Yet he would also see the parallels in Ukraine's resilience. The Chechnya fell because they stood alone. But Ukraine, bolstered by allies like the United States, mirrors Temujin's own early days, turning weakness into strength through unity. America's role, supplying billions in aid, over $50 billion by 2025, per official reports, recalls Toril's support, providing the tools for survival against a larger foe. The HIMARS systems and Javelin missiles flooding Kiev's arsenals are modern echoes of the Mongol bow, simple tools wielded with devastating precision. Educationally, this connection teaches us about the timeless dynamics of power. Genghis Khan's terror tactics prefigure modern psychological warfare. Russia's bombardment of civilian cities like Mariupol aims to crush morale, much as skull pyramids once did. But his adaptability offers a counter-lesson. Ukraine's shift from Soviet-era tactics to Western strategies shows how survival demands innovation. A page from the Khan's playbook. For Americans, it's a reminder of their own history, supporting underdogs against empires from the Revolution to today, yet it poses a question. At what cost does power intervene? Genghis Khan's millions of dead warn of escalation's price, a specter haunting U.S. policymakers as they weigh deeper involvement. He would have watched this war with a cold, calculating eye, seeing Russia's overreach as Khwarezm's arrogance reborn, and Ukraine's defiance as his own unyielding spirit. The steppe still whispers his lessons. Strength prevails, but only with cunning and coalition can it endure. From a starving boy once shackled by his own people, Genghis Khan rose to become history's greatest conqueror. He wielded terror to build an empire, leaving pyramids of skulls, civilizations ground to dust, and rivers rerouted to erase his foes. Yet he also linked the world, fostering trade and culture in the Pax Mongolica. To the Mongols, he's an undying hero. To the defeated, a relentless nightmare. The truth lies between. A man shaped by a harsh age, who reshaped the world with blood, fire, and an iron will.